Welcome to Tuesday's TNT, and thank you very much for taking the trouble to drop in. We're going to be covering some of Thailand's main news stories, but firstly, just a big thank you to Peter James. And not many people these days sort of write a letter and sign it. So thank you for going to the trouble. I'm an avid subscriber. Thank you very much. He says, I've included here a copy of my book, Cain and Son of Cain, as a donation to your beach house library. It's all about a soy dog. Now, I haven't read it yet, but I am going to. But there we are. Cain and Son of Cain. That looks a bit like, Daisy, who's sitting under the chair as I speak. So thank you very much, Peter James. And I just like the way that he addressed it. Tim Newton, Bonneville Beach House, Thailand. Well, somehow it found me, so the address worked. Thank you very much, Peter, for going to that trouble. And I look forward to reading the book. And so will Daisy, who's sitting under the chair chewing at a half-eaten packet of dog food. So let's go to today's main Thai news stories, and plenty to cover. Yesterday we reported about that body in a barrel story. A South Korean tourist who was visiting Thailand somehow ended up dead in this barrel. And the Korea Jungang Daily reports arrest made in Korea for murder of Korean tourist found in plastic barrel in Thailand. And a suspect alleged to have murdered a Korean tourist was apprehended by police in North Jola. The arrested individual, surname Lee, a man in his 20s, was one of three suspects accused of kidnapping and murdering a 34-year-old Korean man in Pattaya, Thailand, earlier this month. And he was arrested at 7:46 on Sunday after discovering he'd returned to Korea on Thursday. He was transported to the Gyeongsam Provincial Police Station upon his arrest. Lee is currently denying his involvement in the crime, saying he only stayed with two other suspects but did not collude with them. And according to a report on Monday, the two other suspect accomplices, Lee, aged 34, and Kim, aged 39, fled to Cambodia and Myanmar respectively. And on Saturday, Thai police discovered the body of a Korean tourist inside a cement-filled black plastic barrel in a reservoir in Pattaya, Thailand. Well, at least some progress in that case, and it looks like we might see some more arrests in coming days regarding that crime. Now to the next topic and ongoing coverage of the cannabis issue here in Thailand. There's a trigger for YouTube. Off we go, demonetised again. So the only reason I'm going to read this out is it's an interesting perspective from the current public health minister. And I was quite surprised by some of the things he said. There's no other topic, and I've covered a lot of topics over the years, that seems to engender such emotional response from people. There's even one YouTuber who I sort of rate, but he's completely, I hate to use the term, lost his shit over this particular issue. Some tirades over recent days that were quite surprising to me, such that I was quite concerned about this person's mental health. Anyway, let's get into this story. Marijuana will be relisted as drug by year end. This is from Somsak, the current public health minister. And he's just come to that position as a result of the recent cabinet reshuffle. And cannabis was removed, as a bit of a backstory, from the list of narcotics 2 years ago under a public health ministry directive when it was run by Bumjai Thai Party leader Anitin Charnvirakul under the tenure of then PM General Prayut Chan-o-cha. So at that stage, it was a public health ministry directive. Does the public health ministry really have the power to direct a change in what is a narcotic and what isn't? Interesting question. And speaking to reporters on Monday, Somsak said comprehensive talks among relevant government agencies were required to determine if the entire marijuana plant would be added to the narcotics list or only parts that have psychoactive effects. He said an international treaty on narcotics controls marijuana flowers and extracts, but not seeds and fibrous plants. And Somsak was Justice Minister under Prayut's government and the Office of the Narcotics Control Board, which was under his supervision when he backed the removal of marijuana from the Category 5 drug list. So it appears he's had somewhat of a change of heart. And when asked why he did not oppose the decriminalisation of cannabis 2 years ago, Somsak said it was his duty to support it as a coalition partner. Yes, it's all about politics. He said only the Foreign Ministry had expressed opposition to the decriminalisation of marijuana, adding that neither the ONCB or police representatives had said anything at the meeting. However, he said they loudly expressed their disagreement after the meeting. And he's quoted as saying yesterday, "We had to deal with the coalition partners with respect." So you might disagree with something, but it's the coalition partner, so we have to give them respect. But moving on, meanwhile, a group of marijuana advocates declared they would take to the streets on June 9 if the plant is relisted as a drug, and Somsak does not clarify his stance on the subject, and he said he'd be happy to explain his stance to the group, adding that marijuana's standing as a medical herb will not be affected. Well, I just love to be a fly on the wall at that meeting, but very interesting comments there from the Public Health Ministry. Doesn't really give you a lot of confidence that things are being approached from a public interest or even a scientific approach, but it's purely just politics, counting the numbers and showing respect. And we'd like to acknowledge our sponsor, 5-Star Marine, at 5starmarinephuket.com. This spectacular weather with blue skies and, hot weather continues down south, and very pleasant days to be out on the water, I would have thought. But 5-Star Marine, they'll take you out right throughout even the wet season, and they're very, very good at picking the weather and dodging the storms. So even during the wet season, it's not that wet really, but you will be able to have a great day out on Punga Bay. So please contact our sponsor, 5starmarinephuket.com. Tell them you saw them on TNT. All right, to our next story. And Pattaya police struggled to arrest a Russian man who locks himself in a bathroom. This reported in calcidenglish.com. And apparently police are concerned they had to exert effort for several minutes. This happened at 5 p.m. on May the 11th. A Russian man aged around 30 to 35 years old was in a state of delirium, ran to snatch a mobile phone from a passerby, but the owner of the mobile phone didn't make much of a deal out of it, thinking the foreigner was probably drunk. But suddenly, the Russian man became crazed again, rushing into a hotel. And several police officers had to exert effort to arrest this Russian man by spraying pepper spray into the bathroom. Unable to bear it, the man ran out and the police swarmed to control him, grappling with him for several minutes before successfully apprehending him. They detained him in a holding cell and filed charges of disorderly conduct and causing public nuisance to prosecute him, and they were waiting for him to calm down. And we do hope that he gets the help he needs. Now to another follow-up, and this is the Landbridge project that keeps on making its way to the top of the pile from time to time. In many ways, I would have thought it's a fairly unsellable product to investors. Haven't seen the numbers, but I, just in my own head, can't seem to make it add up. But they've given this impossible task of supporting Landbridge to the Deputy Transport Minister. And BangkokPost.com reporting Manipur defends the Landbridge plan, and the Deputy Transport Minister on Monday defended the government's plan to build the 1 trillion baht Landbridge mega project, saying it's garnered a lot of interest from foreign investors. And she made the comment in response to a criticism from a former Democrat leader who recently questioned the mega project's cost-effectiveness and doubted that it would materialise despite the government's roadshow to attract investment. The Landbridge scheme is one of several major investment schemes that the government's trying to promote among foreign investors. And the government says it will open up a new link between the Pacific and Indian Oceans with deep-sea ports at both ends of the link in Chumbon and Ranong. And critics are concerned about its environmental impact, financial costs and completion time, as the scheme would be carried out in phases. And the Assistant Minister attached to the Transport Ministry said the scheme has been thoroughly studied with several different agencies, confirming that the new route would help cut travel time and reduce costs, thus making it a viable alternative to the highly congested Straits of Malacca. And apparently the scheme's drawn significant interest from prospective investors in the US, Europe, Middle East and China. So we keep on hearing, but it's the old statement, show us the money. If the government's going to try and attract investment, obviously the numbers must look pretty good as an investment. I'd like to see some sort of publication of those numbers so that the rest of us know exactly what's going to be happening with this project, which areas are going to be affected, and let us make our own minds up whether we think it will be worthwhile. Now, we haven't heard much from Singapore yet. If this Landbridge happened, if it actually was going to be effective and cheaper and save a lot of time, then I'm pretty sure Singapore would have something to say about it, because at the end of the day, they would be the biggest loser. Now, Koh Samui's had a difficult time recovering after the COVID pandemic, and they've also suffered a couple of decades of a monopoly with Bangkok Airways, who built and run the airport there and have inordinately high airfares for people to fly there. Well, some good news for them. Reported in calcidenglish.com again, and Koh Samui welcomes Scoot Jet to start one flight per day. And Scoot, the low-cost subsidiary of Singapore Airlines, started the inaugural flight directly from Singapore to Koh Samui in Suratani. And they're using an Embraer E190-E2. And Scoot will commence daily flights on the Singapore-Samui route with one flight per day. There are plans to increase to 2 flights per day in June. And after the first E190-E2 jet was delivered in April, it's been used on Scoot's existing flights to Hat Yai and Krabi from May the 7th, increasing flight frequencies to both destinations from 7 to 10 times every week. Well, good use of these newer, very efficient jets, and good to see that Scoot is flying from Singapore into Samui, Hat Yai and Krabi. The last two obviously lesser known destinations, but getting some more international traffic. Now to what I thought was quite a troubling story. Reported in PattayaMail.com, Pattaya grapples with influx of migrants engaging in illicit activities. Well, I was quite concerned about this. Recent revelations concerning the infiltration of migrants engaging in illicit activities with the vibrant streets of Pattaya have cast a shadow over the city's reputation, prompting urgent calls for intervention and accountability. Well, let's see what the problem is here. Apparently, clandestine migrant presence in Pattaya, allegedly pursuing unlawful occupations, raising valid concerns about the potential tarnishing of Pattaya's image as a premier tourist destination. Good heavens, what are these dreadful people doing? Well, investigations into the matter have uncovered unsettling scenes around establishments frequented by tourists, such as bars and night entertainment spots, where migrant women are observed soliciting alms or selling flowers, often accompanied by young children. Exploiting the innocence of these children to evoke sympathy from passers-by represents a deplorable tactic that underscores the depths to which these individuals are willing to stoop in pursuit of their objectives. Well, just turning the drama down a little bit, and of course we are talking here of potential human trafficking, exploitation of children, and of course that's all bad. But this situation has existed in tourist areas for 2 or 3 decades. There is nothing new about this whatsoever. And some photos posted there by Pattaya Mail. But the whole drama continues in light of these distressing revelations. There's an unequivocal imperative for authorities to take decisive action to safeguard Pattaya's reputation and integrity. The urgency of the situation cannot be overstated. It's doing irreparable harm to Pattaya's standing as a beacon of hospitality and entertainment. Now is the time for concerted action to uphold the principles of legality and decency that underpin the city's identity, and Pattaya's future as a thriving and reputable destination depends on it. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm having a go at the Pattaya Mail. They've been publishing this sort of stuff before. I don't know who the editor there is at the moment, but they're not really going to do much to attract new readers by publishing this sort of AI-generated rubbish. Now, the story is fair enough, but it could be written in a couple of paragraphs with some photos so we can understand the problem of migrants using their children to sell things like flowers outside popular restaurants and night spots. But to then have all this flowery, over-exaggerated language following it up is just deplorable journalism, and really, I think they can do a lot better. Barry, can you do something about this? And with that, we thank you very much for watching today. Hopefully you're more up to date with things happening around Thailand. Please subscribe to the channel. We look forward to your comments, and we'll see you tomorrow.